And welcome to another episode of Mom on Mom. We are here today with Des, who is going to talk with us about parenting and social media and where those lines intersect. Des, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 26. I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter named Amelia and a 3-year-old son named Benjamin. And I've lived in Washington State for like 8 years or so. Yeah, that's me.
So, about the time you moved into Washington State, if my memory is correct, is about the time it started to get warm here, Des. Where did you move from?
So before we lived here, we lived in San Diego, which was 112 degrees the day we left. Yeah, and then Florida before that.
The mystery solved. If everyone would like to just find a link somewhere below and donate to the Stop Des from Moving to Cold Places fund. No, I'm just kidding. All right, no, we're not going to blame Des for that. We're going to blame climate change. But that is not, climate change is not our icebreaker for today.
Oh, I would hope not.
No. I thought of something light and airy, something with a little silliness on the back end. Climate change. No, okay. So our icebreaker for today, we like to start with an icebreaker before we dive into our topics, just to, so everyone can relax.
Many years ago, when I was a girl, my grandmother said, I will give you one piece of practical advice. Okay, Grandma? Learn to drive. Now, as a 5-year-old, I didn't really think, but I said, okay, Grandma. She goes, you may not like it, Jenny. You may not, but learn to drive. Because as a grown-up, I should know how to drive, but I do not. So your grandpa has to drive me everywhere, and I have to take the bus and take so much extra time learning to drive.
What is the one piece of practical advice? I'm not looking for touchy-feely advice here, you 2 millennials. I don't want to hear any of this love yourself, explore possibility, meme advice. You see, they know I love them, so that's why I am allowed to get away with this stuff. But what is one piece of practical advice? And I'll even throw mine out first, and I really mean this one. Whether you're a man or a woman, if you ever intend to wear your hair long, learn to braid your own hair. My beautiful wife spends easily an hour a week braiding my hair for me. That is wrong. You know what she could be doing with that hour? She could be exploring possibilities. She could be loving herself. She could be finding and embracing her self-worth. She could be making memes about all of those things and posting them directly to my Facebook feed. But she can't because she's busy braiding my hair. Because if it's not braided, we wouldn't have room for a guest in this room.
So, that is honestly, and I'll even say if you're a man who never intends to wear his hair long, or a woman who never, still learn to braid hair, because you're probably going to meet someone like me, who is a very self-sufficient woman until it comes to braiding my hair, and then I'm useless. I'm like tying it in knots, and Brienne's like, that's not a bun, that's a knot. You've tied your hair, that's not, oh my God, just turn around. So like an everyday life kind of practical advice type of thing.
What would you guys?
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna say, you're gonna think is very touchy-feely, but
Never tell a millennial what to do.
Practical. Then I'm gonna explain what it actually means practically. Okay. Never assume that you can't do something or figure something out.
Okay, you're right, that's pretty.
Okay, and what I mean by that is, don't assume because it's electrical, plumbing, a car, a craft you don't know, anything you could think of. Don't assume that you can't do it because you don't already know how. Go online, go on Google, go on YouTube. There's probably someone who will explain to you how to do it. And probably an entire video walking you through step by step. Most of the things that I do both in my life, with my animals, with my kids, with our house, with my job, I've taught myself how to do. And that's because I either just poked around until I figured it out, like Photoshop, or because I went and found a YouTube video that showed me how to do it, or I went on Pinterest and someone said, hey, baby chicks, they like to hang out with their mamas. When you buy baby chicks or you have rescue baby chickens, if you hang a feather duster, they'll literally go under the feather duster because they want to be in the feathers. That was on Pinterest. So I'm just saying,
Okay.
I didn't know, I grew up in Bremerton, here in Washington, in the middle of the city. I had never seen a chicken or been around a chicken until I moved to Port Orchard. And now I have my own chickens. I just rescued a bunch that are babies right now, and they're sitting under their little feather duster upstairs.
I'm gonna give you that one, that's a good one.
But just don't assume you can't do it. Don't assume that since your sink is clogged, you can't figure it out. I tried to plunge the toilet and it wouldn't work. Well, okay, what's the next step? The next step doesn't have to be a plumber. The next step can be, Google, and Google will say, hey, do you know there's such a thing that you can get for $8 called a toilet auger? And all you have to do is this.
I'm gonna
And it's unclogged the toilet. We would have had to call a plumber, I don't know, a dozen times more.
Yeah.
And it was something that I literally for $8 from Lowe's, and I just did it myself and it was fine.
I'm actually gonna take that a step further because you and I just ran into an issue with our washing machine.
And we've all probably been in that situation where you call a service person, and of course there's a charge just for them to come out usually. But then if it's something simple, we always get angry. And then, we're all, well, not all of us, but a lot of us are then we post that angry Yelp message or whatever it is. The truth of the matter is, I think looking things up, and I have found especially YouTube videos because I love to learn that way, and watching someone else doing that and say, okay, well, here are all the steps I can do. With our washing machine, we were able to step it through 6 or 7 steps before we realized exactly what needs to be done and that it was something that was physically beyond us.
Exactly.
Now, whatever that man charges us in 3 days' time when he comes out, or woman, whatever that service person charges us when they come out, I'm gonna be fine with, because I know I cannot physically maneuver this washing machine to fix what needs to be fixed. And that makes me feel good about spending my hard-earned money. So I'm gonna give you that one. I really like, that's a good one. It's not touchy-feely at all.
It seemed
Good
touchy-feely, but I mean
advice.
literally.
But you turned it around.
Yeah.
Which is a millennial thing to do. So I say,
Power to
Go
you.
on YouTube.
All right.
Okay, so I had 2 thoughts on this
Okay.
entire thing, but can I share both of them?
Yes.
Okay, my first one was to learn how to change a tire. It's important.
Mhm.
Also can YouTube it if you
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know how,
true.
on the side of the road, on your phone, in the night.
Yeah.
My other one is...
It's surprisingly simple.
It's super simple.
It's really not a hard thing. It's
Right.
only hard when you've never tried to do anything and you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right, and then
Yeah.
you're frazzled because it's in the moment and it's
Mhm.
pouring down rain.
Yeah.
My actual one is understand and learn what credit will do in the future as a child.
Because I work for a financial institution, I see people, every single day they're coming in and they're saying, I did a lot of messed up stuff when I was 18 and I wasn't smart and I signed for this credit card and these kind of things. And just teaching yourself how to play the game, because it is a game and it will mess you up in the future if you don't play with it well. So I think that understand and don't just take everyone's advice from it, but truly understand the backwards forwards parts of it so that you can be your own advocate in the future.
Now you see, it occurs to me, that is both of those I absolutely love. See, these guys came through. I gotta tell you, we have to send Maxwell and Faith to Des to learn about credit because I think primarily either we were raised this way or, at least in my case, I didn't like what I saw growing up. But like, I think your parents didn't use credit cards at all. Brianne and I don't even own a credit card. Like we're like completely will not do it, absolutely not anything. And so Max and Faith, I've only recently noticed little comments that they'll make that are very anti, credit. And I'm like, oh, actually there are, I mean, like a mortgage is a line of credit. I mean, it is. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, guys, we're gonna have to send them to death.
Yeah, when I had the other car, the Ford.
Yes,
right.
That
was on a payment plan. That is
a kind of credit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's okay, you guys. See, these are good icebreakers. Not silly, but though, Des, I will say, I did notice that, like a classic millennial, you bent those rules. Yeah, you guys.
I did.
You might wonder, why are you suddenly harping, Jennifer, on this generational tag? And the reason that I did want to kind of tie that in very early on is so we didn't have to do it for the rest of the episode. Because what I hear a lot here at Blue Forge, because we work from everything from like greatest gen to Gen Z, we have content creators that are working with us. And what I get more than anything else is bickering among the generations. In the Blue Forge office itself, we literally have 3 generations working side by side to make every decision. On the board of directors, we have 5 generations. So I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's ridiculous to create these divides between all of us. But when we are talking about social media, I do think that generationally, a lot of us see it differently. And I have seen a lot of grand statements, like Gen Z loves social media. Millennials live, like Gen Z use it constantly. Millennials go there for all their entertainment. Greatest Gen don't use it at all. Gen Xers only use it for business. I mean, like I hear these stereotypes, and the truth of the matter is when we actually break it down, none of them are true. But I keep hearing them perpetuated. And yes, I see them perpetuated in, little memes and little graphical jokes, but also just when people are talking. And I'm like, I've got some greatest gens that work with us that they run some killer feeds. I mean, they know how to talk about their work. And the particular person I'm talking about is a novelist, and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. I wish I had some Gen Zers that were running social media like this. So where does social media and parenting collide? That is what we're going to talk about today. All right, so in this little segment, what I like to begin with is what are our personal experiences with this topic. And I don't even think we don't even have to veer too much into parenting and social media, but just social media in general right now. How do you use social media, Des?
Every day. I have Facebook and Instagram, Tumblr, Snapchat, Discord. I have tons of apps. I even use it at work to contact my other employees, which is interesting, being able to use Facebook Messenger to, I'm calling out today. Like I don't get call outs. I don't have a voicemail on my phone at work. I get a message at 2 a.m. of I've been throwing up all day. I'm gonna not be in tomorrow, which is interesting. Hard, as because it's so easily accessible, and you don't think about it. It takes your time, and it's so easy. It takes 2 seconds, but it also, you're checking it at dinner. You're getting messages for things that you're not getting paid for, or those kind of things kind of come into it. So I eat, sleep, breathe on my social media for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I use, Facebook I've used a lot less recently. I definitely use Messenger a lot. There's a lot of people that I don't have their phone number.
Right.
So or their phone number is constantly changing, or they have a phone that gets turned off and on and off and on, and I never know how I can contact them. Facebook sometimes, and it's mostly, I see it as a way to catch up with people who I know already. And I feel like a lot of other social media platforms, like, yeah, you might follow your friends, but there's also a lot more interaction with like the world at large. Rather than Facebook, I'm like, unless you're like, I'm part of like some fan groups and like different like hobby groups and stuff on Facebook, and so I do interact with some other people on there, but primarily it's just like, what are my friends up to? What is my family up to? You know, here's some pictures of the dinner they had last night. And,
Yeah.
You know, I use Instagram. I've been using Twitter a lot lately, and I found with Twitter, there's lots of parts of it that are really, really volatile. But if you follow the right people and you stay in the right groups, there's actually some great people on there. And that's been really interesting. And I also follow a lot of the YouTubers that I watch. I follow them like on Twitter and Instagram and that kind of thing, because then I know kind of what they're up to and when new videos are going to post, or they have new merch or some kind of product that they're doing or whatever. Yeah.
I think when I think of social media,
It's really a mixed bag for me, and I'm not trying to ape the stereotype that I brought up earlier about generations, but it's I have tried several times and failed to create my own interest in running my own social media, like having an Instagram of my own. And I'm just like, literally, I keep starting it. I'm just like, I'm not interested. I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this if I don't want to do this?
And I will say, just to interrupt you real quick,
Yeah.
There are definitely, with like the different apps, I'll go through like months where I'm barely on there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like in Instagram and Facebook in particular are both that way, and it's sometimes at the same time, it's sometimes just one or the other.
Yes.
But like I'll be super, super active on Instagram for like a couple months in a row, or maybe even 6 months in a row, and then I'll just kind of drop off. Because like I get bored of it, or I'm just not interested, I'm not engaged, I'm not inspired to post stuff. And I'm not on there just because I'm bored, if that makes sense. And I think that's kind of a stereotype that people have.
yes.
Is that people are just wasting their time and they don't want to think about stuff, so they're just like scrolling, blah, 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 scrolling. Not to say that people don't do that, but that bores
But
me.
not everyone. Yes,
Yeah, that
absolutely.
bores me. So I will just say I get
I
get that you're like, I don't really have interest in this, because I feel that way often too.
And I think that it's, you know, I see all the different social media platforms as social entertainment,
Right.
but also a social activity. It is, I cannot stand it, and we definitely call out the hypocrisy of this here in the household, when someone will post on Facebook, social media is destroying interpersonal communication. I'm like,
That's my favorite.
you're
That's my
literally,
absolute
do you
favorite.
truly not get what
But
you're
what's-
saying
what's
and
better-
that you're doing it on a social media platform?
What's better is when they're particularly complaining about one generation doing it on that same platform.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm just like,
So I think
how
that,
do you not see that it's you too?
right,
Like, we're just
exactly.
people.
Right.
It's not because they're fill in the blank, whatever.
Right. No,
You know.
it's absolutely across all generations. There are
Yeah.
people that use social media wrong. I mean, it's right for them. They're clearly enjoying it. You know, like, I used to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't post polls, I don't post reposts, not even for like awareness days, I don't post anything that
Yeah.
says repost this and blah, blah,
That's
blah.
like the number one
But-
way that I won't repost it.
But
Right.
some people, that is 100% their entire feed.
Oh, I know.
And clearly they enjoy doing that because they keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of like, look, this is social entertainment. How you, if we go to a club, it's social entertainment. I can sit in a corner and people watch and whisper into the ear of my friend, because God knows we can't have a conversation, or I can get up and dance, or I can drink myself under a table. There's lots of
You
things
can
to
engage
do.
with people.
Right, there's lots of different ways to enjoy a club. There are lots of different ways to enjoy social media. But ultimately, because I can't lie to these two women who follow me on social media, I run it as a business.
So even my personal Facebook page, it's about the business, you know, and I try to throw in little personal nuggets
Well, but
here and here,
also
but it's
knowing
impossible for
you,
me.
that is you. That is
Yes.
your personality. Is you don't want something for the sake of doing it.
It's
you,
true.
You want it to have a purpose,
I want everything to have a
and I think
purpose.
that's entirely valid. I think a lot of
Everything in my
people feel
life is
that way.
task oriented.
Yeah.
I mean, like the children sign chore contracts. I mean, it's
Fun.
just, this is, it, maybe it's because if you want to believe in that kind of thing, it's because I'm a Virgo. Maybe it's because, I feel like every moment is creating this legacy of a company that I'm handing over to the children someday. And so I feel like a day that I am not focused on the company is a day I'm not doing for them. And though I try very hard to see myself as a person first, a woman second, a mother third, then a wife, then an American citizen, that, like this kind of like tiers of priority. The truth of the matter is, Max stole my heart the minute he was born. Gosh darn him. And mother moved way up on that list, despite the fact that I try to put myself first and self-care and yada, yada, yada. There was just something, it did not happen when I was carrying. It didn't happen. I was like, kind of feels like I have indigestion. I'm out to here and I'm wearing muumuus. It's not my mode of clothes normally. Not really good. Oh, the baby moved. I'm like, yeah, it kind of feels like I had a bad burrito. All the ultrasounds. Yep, there's a little person in there. I mean, I do believe in life at conception, so I was like, well, last week it was like a bean. Now it's a bigger bean, but it's a baby, so hey, in there, baby, keep growing. I mean, just totally like, yep, good work. Keep growing. But once he was born, everything took over. So for me, social media, the one thing that I have come to realize only recently, so I've always known that I use it for work, was that when I do, the second time that I tried to relaunch a personal Instagram, I went, oh, I don't want to do this because this is all I have. My personal is the only thing that I don't share. Like I always say to our creative partners, the Jennifer is relatively G-rated. She's some of our folks, she's the Earth Mother, mothering everybody, looking out for everybody, and that's fine. That is a perfectly fine persona. And I feel like if I were to run a social media like an Instagram for myself, for it to be authentic, it would need to actually be me. And I don't particularly think that the work that I do meshes with the personal me. Wow, I am really pissed at this content creator today because they said something really ignorant and now I have to deal with the fallout of that, and that really frustrates me. Or, boy, today, to heck with the world, I don't even want to talk about work. I need to focus on my son's mental health and he's number one. Or today I'm out in a, butch chick muscle shirt and baggy pants with construction boots, weed whacking an acre and a quarter, and my hair is crazy, and it's like that kind of thing. It's like people expect to see me in a certain way, and if I were to run a personal social media, it would be different than that, and I think it would not work with what I am trying to accomplish with the business. So I feel very conflicted about social media. But I love that, Des, you talked about using Messenger for work.
Yeah.
I didn't know, as you know, Des, we've talked about in our weekly show, Hello Monday, I've had to tell people, let's not contact each other this way except for organizing films, because for some reason, organizing films through Facebook Messenger is so smooth. Let's try to get everything to email, because I was becoming inundated 24/7. And it's funny, I never thought of that. It's just 2 minutes here, 2 seconds there, but that's all unpaid time. That's
That's the thing
interesting.
that I think is difficult about that too in both situations is that I feel like you lose some of your privacy and you lose some of your autonomy because people, like if you go in your email and you open up an email, you read it, you may reply to one and not to the other at that moment. No one has any clue unless they then receive an email. And with stuff like Messenger and with other social media, there's all of this stuff involved, which can be really helpful. That shows like, okay, this person has seen your message.
Right.
Okay, or this person is online, so they're clearly doing something.
Yes.
But they're not looking at, they haven't even opened your message, let alone responded to you. So then you have to think, oh, am I not important in this person's life? And people get all their ego vested in it.
Yes.
And I think that can be really damaging, and
Yes.
that can make you guys feel like you don't have the ability to use social media personally without being inundated with work.
Mhm.
I think going to what you were saying about like trying to be authentic to
Yeah.
who you are.
That's huge, especially generationally. Just at least in my family, I've seen like some of my older aunts and such, they'll post anything and everything and just go hand, like every couple of like 20 minutes, it's a new post of what they're wanting to do. And me, and nothing's locked, everything's open and available
Yes.
to be able to see, very transparent.
Yes.
And I think I've just been burned so many times, you know, going through high school and understanding that, you know, if something's, I remember my mom being very specific about, you know, if that photo gets out, like if this photo right now is on the internet, it'll be on the internet forever.
Right.
And as through high school, my dream job was president. Or wanted to be the president of the United States. Always wanted to do that. Supreme Court justice was like a close second. But I don't curse on my social media because
Yeah.
I don't want to when I'm 35 and eligible to become president.
Yeah.
I don't want someone to be like, oh, well, she said the D word right there and she did this and this and it's in print and someone can pull that against me whenever X year it is.
Right.
But I, like, everything's locked. You know, everything's locked down to my friends. I only add my friends. And it's interesting to see how toxic of a generation it's become to guard yourself that way.
Yes.
And to protect yourself for your personal information. Because, you know, I just kind of keep everything. I'm a sharer. I share a lot of things. I talk about. I shared today that I was here. Like I took a picture and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm here."
Yeah.
Which is gratifying to me because it gives me that instant gratification. Because people are like, "Oh my gosh, they're there. That's so cool." But I also keep things locked down and I don't share everything because I want that me time and that personal part of me that, you know, only people that see me every day or get to spend time with me for long periods of time have.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because it's like I think I've only recently gotten there, and maybe it is because I didn't grow up with any social media.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like I hate to make those generational statements, but you're absolutely right. That's
Well,
the
no,
deep
I
part
mean,
of
it does make a difference because even like the thing that I'm finding very interesting is that like you said that you're 26, I'm 30, so we have like a 4-year difference, which you would think in the grand scheme of things is like pretty small.
Right.
But like I barely had social media in high school, and so like I was on MySpace a little bit.
Yeah.
And MySpace, for those of you who weren't on it, there wasn't that much that went into it. Like there wasn't a feed. You didn't like, you know, just everybody has posts and they all just kind of like auto like that. That's a very Facebook thing. So it's like you'd have to go to someone's page and see if like they blogged about something. So I've always said like that I'm so glad that in my like preteens and teens we didn't have a lot of social media because there isn't a lot of proof of anything.
Yes.
Or you know, there's not any of those like awkward photos that like other people uploaded that other people took. They may have some like from their disposable camera somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
No one else will ever see them.
Right.
So I mean, I think that it really does make a difference. Like at which point did you get a phone? At which point did you have a phone that could have apps? Because that's also a huge difference. At which point, like developmentally, did you get social media?
Yeah.
Have you had social media since you were 4? Since
Right.
you were 40? Since you were 14? Like it all is going to make a difference.
I think that I think all of us can agree, but correct me if I'm wrong here, you guys. I think all of us will agree that social media is simply the next evolution of communication. It is not killing human communication. All right, and the only reason that I even bring that up is as we move on to our next segment, I'm just kind of like, that prevalent belief that people throw around, I literally think comes from ignorance. I'm like, you guys aren't looking at the history of communication.
And it can, I feel it's affecting communication and it's changing it, and I think that people struggle with change.
Yes.
And societies struggle with
Yes.
change. But for me, like I said, there's groups on Facebook. There's people who I've never ever met, but like we're interacting sometimes on like a daily basis. And there's social media platforms like Tumblr where it's like everything is very anonymous. So unless you know who people are, and like you guys are talking about like who you are in real life, like no one has any idea. And those can be places where like I'll go on and I'll talk about like mental health stuff because I feel like I can talk to people who are dealing with the same thing. I have no idea how old they are, where they live, if they live in this country, what their religious background. Like I don't know anything about them, but like we're having meaningful human interaction
Absolutely.
and supporting each other and like and talking about issues and having safe spaces to do that. Which there, we'll just throw out another millennial.
I was thinking safe space all the
Um,
time.
but social media does give us that, and
Yes.
without that, I wouldn't have that. So I would, I would be seeking a different form of communication. I'd be seeking like a support group or something, which I deal with anxiety, so like that makes that really hard. Because the idea of like going to a new place and meeting new people to talk about something that I'm not comfortable talking about,
That sounds like a nightmare.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that I've thought about a lot. I guess for me, when I think about like parenting and social media, I think about primarily like there's some good things like support and like talking to other moms who are dealing with like similar issues. But what I think about mostly is about like privacy for your kids. How much of your kids, like how many photos, how much do you talk about them? Do you talk about them by name? And it's hard because there's a lot of the time where I want to talk about them because they're so much part of my life, but I have to remember they are also their own person, and they may not necessarily want those things that I want to share that I feel are mine, but they're not really, they're theirs because they're their own person. I want to talk about them, but I feel like there is a balance.
Yeah.
I know definitely if it's something specific, I won't talk about name. I won't even, I'll make it vague enough that no one knows like which kid I'm talking about kind of thing.
And let me just interject really quickly that if you're one of those moms who feels, because I hear this actually alarmingly a lot, if you're one of those moms or dads who feels, hey, I made these kids, I can say whatever I want you to stop for just a minute and think about, would you be okay if your mom or dad posted publicly because they made you whatever they want to say about you? Like the fits they're throwing or the drama in their lives or whatever it is.
Or a picture of them crying.
Is it really yours to share?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to shame you.
No.
But just, and if you're like, yeah, I don't care what my
No, 'cause
parents
these
say
are
about
all-
you, then maybe your family dynamic is that, and maybe it's fine. But I know
Yeah,
our
and
family
these are
dynamic.
all personal choices.
Yeah.
How you deal with that. And that's what I think about, because that I definitely don't believe that like, oh, well, I'm raising you so I can post whatever the hell I want because, I'm experiencing, so it's my life, so I'm going to talk about your stuff. And definitely like as the kids got older and they were teenagers and they were starting to really understand like what social media is and that sort of thing, like I started checking with them about pictures. Because like I don't want to post something and they're like, oh my god,
Right.
how can you possibly have done that? My life is over.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that that's cool.
I don't know. So I have little kids, so they're still and I live very far from my family, both of our families, my husband's family and my family, 3,000 miles away.
And I know we both, I've recently had a loss, and Facebook was how some people found out, and that was huge. But I had a big baby book. Oh no, that's a lie. My sister had a big baby book, my older sister, filled to a T, photos, everything. My baby book starts like a little bit, and you can obviously see as like I got older, a couple months in, it's not filled out anymore because my mom had 2 kids, and that was a lot, and it was just not her cup anymore. And if you look at my children's physical hard copy baby books, they might have their name in there, may have like the time and the stuff, but like Facebook, honestly, especially the like on this day and things are a chronological history of
Yeah.
my time with my children. My husband used to be in the Navy. He would deploy, not be accessible for, contact sometimes. And then my parents and his parents were away. It was the easiest way to kind of, oh, look, Amelia walked today, or, Ben is in the hospital because he has this going on. So I will say that I haven't got to the point to be at the age where I'm necessarily thinking about like mortifying or just even emotional things. Like my daughter, she chopped all of her hair off, and she said a monster did it one day. And she comes downstairs and she's just tears to end all tears. Has a Beatles haircut. I mean, my daughter used to have like beautiful long like, Goldilocks hair, and I remember posting like everything that happened, but I never posted the photo because she just looked so broken. She was like 3.
Or maybe 4. But mortified, absolutely. I have the photo. I'll probably keep it forever. I don't know if it's ever been printed out because, again, everything's electronic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely use Facebook and other forms of social media to not only, chronologically go over their life and have that for them to look back on. I don't know if Facebook's going to be around, in like MySpace and that. I can think I can still log in, but I'm not even sure what that all is. But that is, I don't think that's something I've ever thought about, and it's weird because I even have thought about like I'm never going to curse on social media because when I'm 16 I don't want to be stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't think about that for my own children, and that's interesting to kind of consider because they're 6 and 3, and I'm just thinking about
Maybe they
being
want to be
adorable.
president.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Oh, they're
And
gonna know
this
that
picture of their
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? But think about it though.
Yeah.
It's great. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have 35 years from now, the president, if they're a young president,
Right.
have information about when they threw a tantrum when they were 5 or
Right.
or got suspended and
Mhm.
Or their parent put a video up on YouTube because they didn't want to carry their dishes to the sink.
right.
And they were throwing a tantrum about
public
it.
communication.
Yeah.
That's a huge niche market and for
Yeah.
YouTube. And then
Yeah.
YouTube's locking down on it too though.
Yes, they are.
So
And-
which is great.
And we're going to cover a whole segment on this episode about public shaming. So
Yeah.
we're definitely going to dive into that's very true. I think that
When, not so much when Maxwell was born, because when Maxwell was born, people in general still were not really talking about autism, and I don't think enough was known. But by the time Faith was born, I was very late to Facebook, very late, as Brian knows, very late to a smartphone, actually very late to a cell phone. I think I was the last person in America.
Well,
with a
you
landline,
had
but-
some like on and off,
Yeah.
but I
But
think
the-
it's hard because you were living out here, which is really rural, and the service isn't great.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, what is the point of this?
Yeah.
But
So
I
it is
will say,
complicated.
around 2002, when Faith was born,
I felt incredibly uncomfortable after going one time to one of the parent support groups, the parent support group educational at Seattle Children's, which Seattle is seen as such a open and I mean, gosh, even when I was a little girl growing up in Seattle, it was always seen as just like so open and welcoming to all different kinds of people. At the time, I definitely presented a lot more masculinely, and I was still a single mom.
and I was just trying to learn as much as I could, but I was also juggling a lot. And I felt really uncomfortable in the support group. I'm not putting it on anyone, I'll put it on myself. And what I found was an absolute lifesaver. With Maxwell, educating myself came through books. And they were usually books published in other countries, actually, because again, I feel like the misinformation and the lack of information in America in basically the early 2000s was ridiculous. But for Faith, forums, online forums, online health forums. So I would just like to say thank you, Google, for existing, because that is how I was able to find other parents who didn't care I was a single mom, who didn't care what I looked like because they didn't know. I was just Jen DeMarco.
So I loved that kind of the realism, that slight layer of anonymity.
No, I think that
Is that the right word?
Yeah,
Okay.
like keyboard warrioring.
Yes,
but not
yes.
like as aggressive as
Right,
some.
right. That it was just like, hey, it's a little bit anonymous.
So I feel so grateful towards social media. And also as someone who purchased a company before the advent of social media and then had to basically build it and compete with much larger companies, because we've always been not driven by commercial interest and then became a federal nonprofit. We've never had this huge coffer for advertising and things like that. But with grassroots and by using social media myself, I was able to grow the company. So I've always felt very grateful. But in terms of parenting, that is still to this day where I will go to these forums where other parents are talking. Like, okay, has anyone run into this? Because there is that level of privacy. And if I really want a level of privacy, I will be smart and my handle won't be something like Jen DeMarco or Maxwell DeMarco's mom or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I just feel really incredibly grateful now in terms of social media in the hands of our children. One of the things that I have had to adjust to is I have a very savvy daughter who's grown up very actively helping to run a business. She is the producer, meaning the idea creator and the decision maker on a lot of our most best-selling series like Teatro de Freak, Gentleman Longlegs, Ghost Sniffers Inc. When she wanted to launch her very own show that she also starred in,
I guess going into it, approaching social media with Maxwell and Faith, I have tried to be very vocal about what I find distasteful on social media, and just hope that they would pick up and run with what I was putting on the table. Like, though I do understand why it is done on social media, is it called a boudoir shoot?
Boudoir?
Yes. I understand that it's incredibly empowering for women to do shoots like that. But when the trend was kind of at its peak, and I was seeing a lot of that in my social media, I did do a lot of unfollowing because I'm like, I don't want to see the women I work with in this arena. And like, power to them, definitely never did anything like, post negative things or anything like that. But I'm just like, I'm seeing a lot of this. And then when some folks would take it to that next level and I'm literally seeing nudes and I'm stunned that they're getting past any filters, it was Instagram in particular, but I'm just like, this is not what I'm here for. So I think that
if one of the kids who now both do have social media, and I see them running it like a business, and I'm kind of like, but if either Maxwell or Faith were running their social media with what I felt were sexually evocative images, even though Max is no longer a minor, I think, and it's not just because he still lives under our roof, because I feel like with a family-owned business and with multiple studio spaces here, he may always live under the roof of the company in some way, or, because you could have multiple families living here. That, I think I would feel differently. That, I think, we would be having a completely different episode.
I think it's hard. I think to me, it makes me think about like when the kids started, like when they were in their early teens and they started, like really dressing themselves, buying their own clothes, and having to watch them figure out like what works, what doesn't work, what, so there were things that, especially for our daughter, were shorter or more revealing than we might have chosen for her. But at the same time, I was like, she has to kind of navigate those waters and figure out like what is she comfortable in. With us being able to give her advice without being like, oh, take that off, you look like a slut. Which I feel like is a lot of, especially like my generation and back, what we were told, like, oh, my mom will say, you can't wear that out, you look like a streetwalker, like,
Right.
You go and change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's definitely not how I wanted to raise her, or Max, if that, it depends on the kid.
Yeah.
But I think that's hard. I think if if they were posting stuff that was more, you know, like sexy, you know, mirror shot,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
in like underwear or
Yes.
like for men it's topless or something.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, maybe I don't want to follow this. You know, maybe I want to talk to them about how to stay safe online.
yes.
I don't think I'd be comfortable being like, you need to take that down, because I feel it the same way as like, you need to take that off. I'm like, it's your body, it's your
Right.
your own persona to explore, whether in person or online.
Mhm.
But I want to make sure that you stay safe about it. And I think whether it's online or in person, those conversations have to be had about protecting your privacy, about making sure that you stay safe, whether it's physically or emotionally.
Mhm.
But the emotional part of it, the trolls are vicious
Mhm.
and they have that anonymity. I can't say that word apparently. They have that barrier of not being, you know, who they are or not
And,
being
and
able
on
to
the
express
same
themselves.
side, you also have people who, you know, will message you. Like I notice, especially for me, so I have like my own just personal social media accounts, but I started one specifically for my brand because I started a show on Blue Forge Films called Legally Altered, where my focus of it is about like cannabis awareness and destigmatizing it and that sort of thing. But I do like some like drunk versus high videos and like just some fun stuff, and I post a lot about cannabis just in general. And I found that compared just to a personal account, they're like, oh well, it's weed, it's drugs, so you know, like people's just like, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Hey girl, what's up? Hey, you're beautiful. And I'm just like, I'm married, I say so in my profile, like,
Right.
no way.
Slide right back out of my
Yeah, and so there's a lot of, I mean, not to even get into like unsolicited pictures and that kind of stuff, but it's like there's both of those sides where like people are just being nasty and people are being, you might say, nasty in a different way.
Mhm. It's a
Yeah.
whole level of degrading that you don't get in person. You know,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think I've ever had
and-
someone say that to me in person, but like,
Oh.
And especially if
never.
you engage them, I find then they just completely lose it.
yeah.
So like mostly I just delete, I don't respond, I just
Mhm.
delete, and that's what I've told Faith, because we've talked, because once she started her account, she got, you know, stuff like that too. And then,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
instantly.
A girl gamer just
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and I'm like, you know, you can engage with someone and be like, hey, what's, you know, because maybe they just want to have a conversation, that's
Yeah.
totally possible. But I would like go to their profile first, check out like, are they into gaming? Are they into things that you like? Are they completely random? Like, what is the connection here?
Right.
You know, and kind of judge whether or not you want to, depending on like what they said, what their profile looks like. But I'm like, I mostly just delete a lot of them because they're either trying to sell me something, or they're trying to start up some online conversation.
Or trying to sell you something else.
Yeah. And I'm just like, delete, 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 delete. But we definitely have had conversations, and it's very similar to the conversations we've had about like guys in public. You know, if someone is hitting on you, somebody asks for your number, it's okay to just say no. One, it's okay to just say no and leave it at that because you don't owe anybody an explanation. It's also okay to, if that's what makes you comfortable, to say no and say, I have a boyfriend, I'm not allowed to date, I don't have a phone,
Right.
I'm from Australia. Say whatever you want. If that's what makes you comfortable, say whatever you want, but it's also okay to just be like, no thanks, not really interested. So,
Now, one of the
and
things
I see that as very similar.
Oh, it is. I think
You
it is,
know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that you brought up earlier in the episode, Brianne, is a particular video, and it is an actual video of, maybe it's more than one, but
Oh, it's more than
them
one.
is
Okay. One in
burned in my
particular.
brain.
Yeah.
And this is a gentle point of not contention. But this is let me just use that word for today.
Sure.
It's a gentle point
Yeah.
of contention between Brianne and I. Is there's this video of a child who doesn't want to help clear the table, and the child is just moaning and weeping as they, I can't remember.
Very
it's a girl or a boy,
dramatically.
pick up the and then drop the plate, and it's
Oh,
plastic,
it's
you know.
too
Oh,
heavy.
it's too heavy.
It's too
And-
heavy, I can't.
I become so incredibly angry when I will see the thumbnail of this type of video. And then I truly realized the depth of my anger when I realized that some parents were actually posting videos intended to shame their children into better behavior, into better grades, into whatever. And often it was teens, not a toddler, even though, again, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to be a judgy mom. I just am a judgy mom.
No, that's okay.
But I don't go around posting my judgments to people. I keep them
Yeah.
to myself because that's where your own judgments are valid.
Well, and
In your own brain, not out in the world.
the thing that's difficult about it
I'm just like,
is
they
I
are
completely
people who may
understand
wanna
what
be
you're
president
saying.
someday.
Right. And I think that there is something funny about a toddler just being ridiculous.
There's
Who's not in distress.
She was, or he was.
No, she was not in distress. She was being dramatic because she
Overtired.
didn't want to do what she wanted to do.
Needed
She
a
was being
nap.
asked to do a chore and she didn't want to.
Not
However, we have to remember that she is her own person.
Right.
And she has her own privacy, and if she wants to post it, it's the same way that I feel exactly about when people post videos of when kids get their wisdom teeth out, and they're completely drugged out of their mind, they don't remember any of it. There is a huge difference between someone filming it and someone saying, you know what, this is going to be hilarious, will you film it for me?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've also seen those.
Consent.
Right, I've also seen that, and
Yeah.
that's a completely different thing.
Daddy, I want to have a tantrum while I
So I
pick up
think
this bowl. Film
While
me.
I
I'd be
found
fine with
that
that.
video hilarious, you can find something funny but actually morally disagree with it, and I think that's where I'm at. Is I don't think that it should be posted, and I definitely am not looking for that type of video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go on YouTube and go, toddler meltdowns.
Right, and the fact that
You know.
probably, well, I know it is.
People run their,
Everything
people run their
is,
entire
but-
channels with that.
Yeah, and
With their kids, pranking their kids, posting videos of their kids being bad, throwing fits. People run entire channels like that.
Make lots of money
Yeah.
running
Oh,
channels
sure,
like
yeah.
that. There was a family not that long ago that had done something very bad.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but
Neither do I.
got charges brought against them
Yes.
for neglect or something.
Oh, we're
like
so
that.
sorry, we took things too far. You think?
Yeah, and someone was fake died or something. I'm
Yeah,
not
it was
sure.
something like that, yeah.
But
And like the family had this channel,
yeah, they were like pranksters.
Yes.
Yeah. I can find them funny.
Because I've been in those situations where my husband's at work and I'll take a video of me with my son in the background, probably not seeing his face, but over my shoulder, and you could just hear wailing. And we're just sitting in a car, parked because he's not wanting to do something, and I'm just looking at the camera and blinking several times. I'm done. I'm so done.
Yeah.
And he won't stop screaming for something, or he's whining about wanting a toy. And we do a lot of cost versus reward in our house, which is, you didn't earn that. You don't get to have this today.
Right.
Try again another day.
Right.
It'll be over here, and if you have a good day, if you have a good couple hours, maybe we'll have this.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get tablet time, and they're terrors if they've had the tablet for too long.
Right.
Which is a whole other
Yes.
ball game.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's hard because there are some that I find oh my gosh, that child is being ridiculous right now. But then you also think about do they want to be able to remember those?
Well, and I
15
think
years from now.
there's ways
Yeah.
that are appropriate to share, and I think that there are ways that aren't appropriate to share. It's I feel like I would feel very differently about your story if you were literally just aiming the camera just at him.
Yeah.
And it was just full on just him. Yeah, and it's posted on Facebook or
To
YouTube
a public
or whatever.
Facebook.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. If it, I'm that as a Snapchat is hilarious.
Right. But again, it's not him center stage. Here's him being miserable.
I think you see
Yeah.
a lot on Tumblr,
Yeah.
follow my story of me at the airport, and it's just all written, and I feel like automatically I feel more engaged, and maybe that's because I'm a writer, but I feel that and I can't say it. That wall is there.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
seeing you. So I've
exactly.
written paragraphs about
Oh,
like my
yeah.
kids, like, oh my gosh, Amelia did this today. She said it cut her hair. She said a monster did it. She said a monster did it to all of her other toys. And there's just piles of hair everywhere. But I didn't
does
post
feel
her photo.
different.
I
It
just
feels
said it
different
all.
to me.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like we have
You disassociate it with the person and you just kind of think of it as maybe even
A
a
story,
fictional story.
yeah. Like we have
Wow, I
a
had
filmmaker
never
that we
thought of
work
that.
with who writes a lot about her son, who's I think almost 2
Yeah,
or is 2. I'm not sure. But he's little.
yeah.
And she writes all the time about this is what he's mad about or this is what he's crying about. And it's
Yes.
something ridiculous, like that he can't eat his breakfast while sitting inside of the oven.
Oh
Or
my
because-
gosh, I've had that argument.
The
Yeah.
pancake is hot and he wants
You're
to
right,
eat it
and those-
now.
And those have never
But
bothered
it's
me.
always just text, it's always just stories. It's not like elaborate videos or pictures or that, you know? And it's like, I see that as completely
He
different.
wanted my gummy bears, I gave him my gummy bears, but now he's crying inconsolably because I have no gummy bears.
Yeah,
Yes, you're right, but there's never a photo.
yeah.
And I
It's
think
always text.
that kind of goes back to
Just
Faith's.
text.
You know, your feeling about that.
Yes.
With the photos and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You gave a visual, you attached something that someone
Yes.
can kind of latch onto. And then that gets into the whole, I mean, you see on social media all the time, like, oh, I was in the store and someone was following me.
Yes.
And those kind of feelings of being tracked down and being able to be visually seen in the community, even being able to attach, oh, that's Dez's kid, that, oh,
Yeah.
what's, and then
Yeah.
kind of remembering, oh, she had that tantrum the other day. But automatically knowing, like, it's not like my sister's kid or, like, you know, something else.
Yeah.
And that is also something that I think, because I think folks may tune into this episode to be like, oh yes, advice on when my children should have social media. I don't think that advice should be given. Boy, is that individual, that needs to be individualized,
It
not
really
just
is.
by the parent, but to the child. I mean, because,
What age,
Oh.
how much, how supervised,
yes,
which platforms.
yes,
I mean, and I don't think that there is one right answer.
no.
I think it really depends on the kid.
We have a grown author.
Who in our print division who writes under a nom de plume. And one of the first things I usually do when someone comes to us when they sign a contract is if they mention a nom de plume, that's a pen name, you guys, in case you don't know, I say, would you consider using your real name? And the reason that I say that is because, you know, if you're gonna do any public events, it's gonna get awkward. Do you really want people to be calling you this pen name? You're gonna have to run different, separate social media to promote your books, you know, da-da-da.
And look
And-
like a real person.
And look like a real person.
Yeah.
And he said, Jennifer, very early on, when I was still self-publishing, I got stalked by just like a out of the box, unstable, I don't wanna use the word crazy, unstable super fan. And,
It showed my house, threats, the whole kit and caboodle. And I'm like, wow. And I gotta tell you, boy, let me tell you, the minute he was gone, I turned to Max and Faith and I went, it happens. You keep that in mind. You be careful what you post online. You be careful what you post anywhere. You know, I'm not saying hide your identity, yada, yada, yada,
But
but
just think it through.
you need to
Yeah.
think this through. This kind of stuff happens. You don't have to be Stephen King or Taylor Swift, or you don't have to be famous on that level. It doesn't have to be there. You can be a self-publishing little local author who's maybe moved a dozen copies.
Or an obscure YouTuber.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that safety and common sense, but I think that with common sense is what our children inherit from us.
you know, I always say, we've had employees before where I'm like, are you serious? You made this decision. Why did you do this? This is common sense. I'm like, well, it wasn't common sense to them. I feel like we get common sense, the common sense we have, we get from our parents, or their lack of common sense in that area we gained, you know, like that kind of thing.
We have to teach our children what to look out for. You know, like, Brianna, when you're saying, Faith, you know, I find the safest thing to do, delete. It was years, you know, maybe I'm that unapproachable, tough kind of lady. It was years before I was sent an unsolicited dick pic. And I mean, it would, you know, but the guy, all week, the guy had been messaging me, you know, are you sure you're married? And then I'm like, "Wait, who are you? Never thought, just was deleting them. Never answered a single one, was just deleting. But I didn't block him, and I should have blocked him. And I think I love the fact that Faith was like, yeah, I've gotten one of those before. I've gotten an unsolicited dick. You know, I just deleted it. And I love that she rolled with it, but for me, I was kind of like, boy, all the red flags were there. I should have jumped on that sooner, because I didn't roll with it. I mean, I wanted to screen capture it and post it to his mother on Facebook. But it was Brianne who told me that would get me in trouble. So, I mean, you know.
Because then you're posting pornography.
Right.
I mean, if you want to DM his mom, if you can find his mom.
I did actually find his mom.
Oh yeah, you can do that, and you can send it along, be like, your son sent me this, send the picture. Oftentimes, the mothers they'll have a conversation with their son.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And I like that. Moms, if some woman ever tells you, your son sent me this unsolicited picture of his penis, talk to your son, even if your son is a grown man.
Oh, especially if
Don't
they're
write the woman
absolutely-
back
yeah.
and say, you slut, or whatever. You probably asked for it. You never asked for it. Are you sure you're married?
Well, and if someone
does
asks
that
for it,
mean?
because sometimes I think, you know, people are sending things back and
Oh,
forth.
well, yeah, I mean, if you ask for it in that way, you're not gonna send it on to his mom.
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna send it on to a mom. So just assume.
Also, if you're going to send unsolicited, I think I'm trying to end us on a positive. If you're going to send unsolicited pictures of your privates, then perhaps do it in a flattering way. Brianne pointed out to me that the one that I got, and I understand, I think most men standing in the room with me would probably have this, but it was flaccid. And I thought to myself, oh, that's unfortunate.
It's like if you're trying to sell a car and you don't even wash it.
Yeah.
Like you want to make it look its best.
Make it look its best.
Right?
Get some pro lighting.
Yeah. A ring light, maybe? A ring light?
A ring light. You
Yeah.
can wear the ring light.
That's a whole other topic.
I will vote for you, Des, and also I will take this episode down when you run. Just to
For the
make it-
dick.
Yeah, right, yeah, do all of that. You know, this woman would run the country well. Okay? So, yes, I think that social media can be wonderful. It can be helpful. Again, like I say, I feel incredibly grateful for it in many different arenas. But it can be dangerous. I don't think it's as evil and sinister as a lot of us make it out to be on the surface.
Yeah.
For folks that are using it in a surface
I think,
way.
and the one thing
You
that
have
I
to be
do,
cautious.
the one thing that I do want to throw out in our last like couple seconds is,
Yeah.
I understand also that the three of us are not coming from an experience of having kids in public school where they're also on social media, and there are a lot more issues with bullying and with social media in that regard, and so we didn't really speak on that because your kids are little and our kids are homeschooled.
Another episode.
And that's a
though.
whole nother episode, which I think actually I'd like us to do.
Absolutely.
I think, but
Yeah.
I was that kid. I'm 26.
There
I
we
was
go.
in high school in 2010.
There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is a valid episode.
yeah.
But this one was just it is not one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
Find
This is
what
more
works
from the
best for your
parental-
kids. Yep.
You know, us using social media versus them. I think the others episode would be more about them using.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right.
Thank you, Des.
Thank you.
so much.